I'm Dr. Shawna Pandya. I'm a physician, scientist-astronaut candidate, Aquanaut, VP of Immersive Medicine with Luxonic Technologies, speaker, skydiver, martial artist, and scuba diver, and pilot in training. So, since I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, but there was a period in time before that. The progression went something like this. So when I was 4, I wanted to be a transformer or a superhero and solve all the world's problems. And then I realized, well, you can't do that when you grow up. So I grew up and became a little bit more mature at age 7 and decided the other way to do good would be to be a billionaire and solve all the world's problems. And then I realized you also can just grow up and be a billionaire. So I thought the next cool thing I could do that would really impact humanity would be an astronaut. And what really impacted me, the person who impacted me was Dr. Roberta Bondar. So she was Canada's first female in space. She was a physician, she was a Girl Guide. So, you know, some of those tick boxes I had. I was Canadian, I was female, I was a Girl Guide. So that really inspired me to want to go into space, into neuroscience, into medicine. And that was the start of my trajectory. Um, I think the best thing is every aspect of it, you know, that you're always discovering in medicine, that you're helping people, that in space and exploration, you're pushing the limits, you're working with amazing teams to get there. I wouldn't say that's the worst aspect, but the most challenging aspect is honestly, it's just like juggling chainsaws on fire while walking a greased tightrope because there's so many things to manage, but it's all a lot of fun. So there's no true worst aspect. It's just a bit challenging at times. There's so many there's so many emerging scientists now. You know, we're seeing a lot more diversity now, and so we're seeing you know, the space gal, for example, Emily Calandrelli. I grew up in the era of Bill Nye. I met him once. He was very nice. You know, there's so many there's so many out there. I think Chris Hadfield has done an amazing job, though officially not a STEM communicator. He's done by virtue of being an astronaut. I would say, you know, the outreach that Chris Hadfield did while on the ISS is probably amongst my favorite. Because so there were a lot of things I was really good at. So math was one of them. I loved math. I had to work quite hard to be good at math, but I quite liked it. Uh, English, languages, French, I was all good at. The irony of being good at math is that it didn't necessarily translate to being good at physics, and I just had to work really, really, really hard to get good grades in physics. So it's funny because you would think that physics and math are aligned, but being good at math came a lot more easily than physics did. And then ironically, because I would spend so much time with the book subjects in junior high, my phys ed grades weren't that great. And then it was kind of once I discovered the world of martial arts when I was in high school that I really discovered the joy of physical activity. When we talk about my field, there's so many. So let's take them in turn. So, I mean, when we talk about, let's talk about medicine in space. I think the major changes is diversity, having more perspectives, more viewpoints, more inclusivity at the table, and then also at the same time getting rid of harmful environments, particularly in medicine. It's still an issue, but I think we're starting to get better at that. Space has started to become more inclusive, and not just in terms of gender, ethnicity, but also in terms of disciplines. We're realizing that we need storytellers and journalists and communicators at the table to tell the story of space. So that would be within that field. And then where the two fields meet, space medicine, we're just seeing more opportunities come because now this idea of human exploration in deep space is becoming very much a reality. And so we're really thinking about the challenges um, that come with you know, going to Mars and keeping humans safe against radiation and bone loss and muscle loss. So those are the major changes I would see in each of those fields. Um, there's so many. Um, it has to be related to space and space medicine, and so it's actually how you'll die in a vacuum. Contrary to Hollywood movies, your head won't explode in a vacuum because your brain isn't very pliable. So that's not how you'll die, and you won't immediately freeze to death because even though it's very 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 cold in space, there's no convection in the vacuum of space, so it actually takes a little bit longer for the heat to be transferred away from your body. But it's honestly the fact that you're in a vacuum and there's that pressure differential, and both you will literally run out of air. And also, if you hold your breath because of that pressure differential, your lungs will rupture. So that's how you'll die in space. I would say the first thing is if you're trying to find your passion, we hear that in graduation speeches all the time. But a lot of young people don't immediately know what their passion is treat it as a scientific hypothesis. Generate a hypothesis about something that you think you might be interested in, and then test that hypothesis out. If you think you're interested in chemistry, start watching YouTube videos about chemistry. Go to your local science center and learn about chemistry, and take courses at whatever level you're at. And then even if you don't end up being passionate about chemistry like you thought you might be, that's still a data point, right? You're still kind of figuring out what you might be interested in, what you might not be in. So that's the first step to help figure out what area of STEM you might be interested in. And then the second one is just start. This is probably the best time in history to empower yourself and educate yourself, either through videos, through massive online open courses, through citizen science. There's just so many ways to get involved, local clubs, student associations. So just if you're interested in something, just start. Look for something to get involved with because this is the best time to do it. There's nothing that I would change because I don't regret anything about who I am today. And I think the question, if you would go back and change something, it means that, you regret some aspect of yourself. I don't. That being said, if I ended up being Gen Z, and growing up in junior high today, I would just nerd out on everything that is out there. I would make my I would ask my parents to buy me a 3D printer. I would, ask for a drone. I would just ask for all of these cool technologies that are available, to help discover and learn about science and aviation and aerodynamics. So the only other life lesson I would teach myself if it was truly a matter of going back in time is just maintain discipline at all times. Anywhere, anything that you want to achieve, regardless of the field, whether it's STEM or acting or athletics, it's work really, really, really hard. Talent you can't help, but your work ethic you absolutely can. So that would be it.